We believe there are two types of identity, external and internal. Your external identity is other people's perception of you. This is influenced by many factors, one being your appearance. All of you would have different opinions on who these people are. The way you dress and present yourself, as well as your level of attractiveness, all play a large role in how other people judge you. A second factor in your external identity is your speech. From slang to proper, dialogue can form common bonds and acceptance, but it can also form an opinion that may or may not be accurate. For example, someone speaking in a strong Southern accent, whether right or wrong, can lead a New Yorker to question their intelligence. A final factor is how you carry yourself. This includes your body language and how you non-verbally communicate with someone. Your internal identity is who you really are and consists of your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. It can be seen as your conscience or moral compass. It impacts the way you act, but doesn't necessarily control your external identity. Individuals may want to be perceived differently by different audiences, so they may change the way they act. For example, some people want to be perceived differently at work than they are perceived at home. Your internal identity also remains permanent throughout your life.
During the 1950s, African Americans experienced racial inequality in the South, while in the North, there was significant progress towards the path of equal rights. As a result, an African American's external identity was drastically different in the North than in the South. When Emmett Till, a 14-year-old Chicago native, was visiting his family's house in Mississippi, he was not aware of the social and racial differences in the South. In his hometown of Chicago, Emmett's shrill whistle labeled him as a playful child, whereas in the South, it indicated disrespect and contempt for the Southern way of life.
He was a center of attraction. He loved pranks, he loved fun, he loved jokes, you know. He just was there in the center of everything. He's kind of a natural-born leader.
Why would that be a problem?
In Mississippi, why would it be a problem?
After Emmett was caught whistling at a white woman, he was captured and severely beaten by Roy Bryant and J.W. Malam. And even though Bryant and Malam offered Emmett freedom in exchange for an apology, Emmett stayed true to his internal identity and would not apologize for an innocent, playful whistle. Bryant and Malam also stayed true to their internal identity in the belief that Emmett's behavior violated accepted practices and followed through with a punishment they felt he deserved.
In My Life as a Girl, the main character has an internal struggle with how she is identified by the people around her, like her friends and family. She can't overcome needing the approval of her peers, and this holds her back from discovering what's important to her and what she stands for. Her need for conformity is another aspect in her tribulations and trials between external and internal identity. She wants just to be like everyone else and fit in. She has no desires to be different or rebel, yet she finds herself on the outside looking in. Another aspect of the struggle is her want to scream out for attention, to get noticed for all the work she goes through to impress people, and yet, in her eyes, the boys just pass her by without so much as an acknowledgement.
In The Wire, Namond experiences battling identities. He portrays a tough guy image and uses street talk to communicate and dresses like a thug. But in reality, he has a kind heart and is caring. Namond only reveals his interior identity to those he trusts, such as the teacher that takes him in. Despite the positive influence in Namond's life, he chooses to maintain his external identity of a street thug and suppress his true internal self.
You send Namond out on them corners now, giving them maybe 1-2 years before you down the morgue. And maybe, if you're lucky, up here with you.
In the story Good Country People by Flannery O'Connor, one of the main characters in the story, Joy, represents what it means to have battling identities. Joy's external identity becomes defined after she loses her leg and receives an artificial limb. She changes her name from Joy, a pretty name, to an ugly name, Hulga. When Joy meets new people, she is immediately judged not for who she is, but for what the name Hulga depicts. In addition, when people find out that she is disabled, she is viewed as weak. For Joy, her rough exterior masks her beautiful and compassionate interior. Throughout the story, Joy's internal identity is at conflict with her external identity until she is able to trust again. It is at this point that she is finally able to reveal her true self to others.
Al Pacino is a famous and well-respected American actor. He is known for his parts as mobsters in the Godfather trilogy and Scarface. Due to his movies, Al Pacino is perceived as intense, dark, and moody. As you will see in his interview with Dave Letterman, his internal identity is very similar to his exterior identity. Also, Al Pacino's internal identity has remained constant throughout his life.
You thought, what I understand is you thought maybe you'd be better off as Sonny as opposed to...
Well, I mean, when I read the book, The Godfather, it was a really very successful and wonderful book. It was a real page-turner. And I thought the part of Sonny was the most, the most dramatic and forceful and interesting and funny. And Michael was sort of quiet and sulking and moody. And I thought, well, that's not me. Or maybe it is me, but I prefer not to play me. I would rather play the more bombastic guy,
Yeah.
Oscar Pistorius is a double amputee South American sprinter. Through his appearance at the 2012 Olympics, he gained fame and was an inspiration to many. People looked up to him as an individual who persevered through great obstacles. However, few people recognized his internal identity. He has a history of violence and anger, from assaulting women to vocal criticism of competitors. His internal identity eventually led to this.
That stunning fall from grace for Oscar Pistorius. To the world, he and supermodel Reva Steenkamp seemed like the perfect pair. Young, glamorous, wealthy, and successful. Now her life is over and his is shattered.
She was the gorgeous model. He was the inspirational athlete. Together, Oscar Pistorius and Reva Steenkamp had the potential to become South Africa's golden couple. Instead, Steenkamp is dead, and this morning, Pistorius is facing charges he murdered her.